Hey, what's up, YouTube? Welcome to Play It Painted Live. Time for another live feed. I know it's kind of late on a Saturday night. Uh, you know, I'm just a Steel Town girl on a Saturday night looking for. I forget the rest of how that song goes. You guys don't even know what the hell song I'm talking about, do you? It's Maniac from the movie Flashdance. For those, I had to I had to remind myself of what movie that was. But yes, that's the movie I speak of. Maniac from the movie Flashdance. Anyway, we'll get to some painting. I promise you, the nightmare commentary like this will not be the gist of the evening. But I have a lot of stuff to paint. And it's a Saturday night. And we're just going to get to work. A lot of this stuff has already been color blocked. And I'm in the middle of painting it. I do need to look up some I need to look up some reference material here, and I'll show you. Let's look at some images. Okay, so I'm working on some stuff. Some of it is commissioned. Some of it is just stuff for me. Okay, where's like the good pictures? Okay, so that's weird. When you Google Starfire and images of Starfire, you see a bunch of weird stuff. Okay, but it looks like those gems are green at the end of the day, right? Those gems are green. We'll work with that. Okay, so I have 3 models in for commission, and here they are. So sorry if they will be upside down on your screen because that's kind of where the camera is sitting. But yeah, so this is Ravager, and Ravager, he wanted Ravager painted in an alternate paint scheme. So she's going to be black mostly, and red accents, and I'm going to figure out how I will address that. So you got Ravager, then you got Batgirl, who you can see is actually not that. She's actually not that far from being completed, honestly. She's actually pretty close. But it's mostly just the airbrush colors down for Batgirl. And then finally, you got Starfire. She's looking pretty good, actually. I need to paint the gems in. I need to finish the detail work on the hair. There's a few things left to do here, but overall, she's looking pretty good. Okay, so those are the 3 miniatures that are on commission right now. And then I have 3 other miniatures that I'm just working on for me. This is for my Secret 6 project, which I'm still super, super amped on. So first I have a classic Deadshot. So again, not a whole lot of stuff done on these. So I'm just going to be painting around kind of in circles tonight. So classic Deadshot. I have another Harley Quinn. This is the Suicide Squad Margot Robbie Harley Quinn. And you can see what I do with Harley Quinn is I actually, instead of just painting her her skin on her face white and dealing with that, I actually paint the skin in and then I put makeup on it. Is that inefficient? Probably super inefficient, but that's the way I do it. And you can see how far along she is here. She still needs some love. And then finally, I have this guy who is the parademon, right? So he's the Secret 6 can take a parademon, and so that's the parademon. You can see he just has airbrush, but he'll actually finish fairly quickly here. So I have a lot of models that I'm working on and just bouncing around. Here's a Jared Leto Joker that I will not be getting to, so I'm not even going to bother really showing him. But I want to finish the commission stuff, at least as we get into some stuff for tomorrow and the next day, because tomorrow I'm going to be doing an unofficial paint day locally. So if you are one of the local guys that happens to be watching this stream right now, I will be at the Game Master in the mall tomorrow, just kind of doing some painting and showing some of their staff there how I do my painting, because they had some questions for me, and like they're one of the staff there has shown some interest in painting, and I told her I would show her how to paint. So that's one I'll be doing tomorrow, and then also I'll be trying to get in a game of Batman as well. Okay, so this is what we're working on. I'm just going to put a fresh coat of youthful flesh glaze down, because I'm trying to get that super smooth look on her. So the more layers of glaze you put on, the better. Just super thin layers of glaze. As it's going down, that you lay it off nice and even, right? That you feather things out and you do a decent job of getting the paint to level and do what it's supposed to do, right? Do this with the skin on the face as well. Liz Harley has a really interesting facial expression. All right. So I'm just going to put that down. We're going to let that dry for a little bit. And then we're going to start to work on some other stuff, okay? I need to work on Starfire's hair specifically. So I need a deeper brown, I believe, for her hair. Let's see. Actually, her hair is more of a sienna red, it looks like, right? Her hair is all more of a sienna color, so I need a different color, almost like scarlet. In fact, let's do some scarlet in her hair, because that should be pretty good. And then we'll just kind of like feather it out, like fade it out into the flames. I swear this makes sense. I swear it makes sense to somebody. But yeah, would like to finish Starfire. I like how I gave Jose a discount on miniatures, and he proceeds to give me the most varied miniatures, as well as, in the case of the Batgirl, the most difficult builds for miniatures in the not only in just the Batman miniatures game, but like period. Like building that, I'm traumatized by building that Batgirl. That's not fun. It's just not a good time. So we're gonna do this with her hair. And we'll shade it down. Whoops. So if you're just joining us, welcome to Play It, Paint It Live. Let us know what you're painting or what you should be painting. Again, it's going to be assorted night models miniatures tonight. We're gonna change the angle slightly so that you guys actually get to see what's in frame for me. Yeah, so tomorrow is going to be kind of an unofficial paint day. And then I'm going to bring some Batman. That way, if anyone's around and wants to play some Batman, I will be ready to go. And if tonight works out, I'll have other like new miniatures I can field. I had to put the Secret Six was really my original. When we got back into this, that was the team I was most interested in running, was Secret Six. And uh, so the original plan was, well, I'll just build out Secret Six through all of its options and continue to play them. What I've come to discover is that Secret Six is extremely difficult to build and to play. The main challenge with building Secret Six is the fact that half your options aren't made yet. And then of the options that are made, like half of those options are um, are models that you typically only get um, from purchasing starter sets. And if you only need one model from the starter set, it's kind of a waste. And what it does is teams are kind of a trap all around. And the reason why I say that is because teams, uh, unlike crews, where a crew is actually good value because you buy the starter for that crew, and you may not like all the models that comes in that crew, but you get your boss, and then you get a couple of minions, and they tend to be fairly useful. Like you can get fairly useful minions out of it. But when you collect a teams on the outside are made up of, they tend to be made up of lots of free agents, which is cool from a collecting standpoint, because with that in mind, you can buy a bunch of characters that you really like, or you look for team ups that you've read in the comics that you really want to run, and then you just buy a bunch of individual blisters, which is cool, but it's also super expensive. So you get that to deal with. Okay, so let's let that dry. Kind of want another fresh layer of skin on her. Again, the reason why we do this is because we want that skin to be super smooth looking. So to get it super smooth looking, you need lots of layers. Even though technically the model, when you're holding it live in your hand like this, you're like, there's nothing left to do. Why would I keep painting the skin, for example, when the skin is all totally covered? Um, and the reason why is because it needs to be totally smooth. So you need to be willing to put in several coats to get it to that smoothness, especially when you prime with airbrush, because when you prime with airbrush, I don't even know if that's correct. That's supposed to be purple here? I don't know. I don't have the model card on me. Hold on. Let's look it up on Night Model Starfire. Night Model Starfire. So at the very least, I want to finish Starfire and Batgirl. Maybe I'll get to finishing Ravager. Okay, it looks like the gems they did kind of a red color. Okay, so we're just going to continue to work on Starfire here. I don't know if anyone's on, but you know, if people aren't on, what I'll do is I'll just cut the feed short, turn my radio on, and then just hit the turbo button on these and just go at it super fast so that I can get them done. Because I especially want the commission to be done. Okay. Let's start painting in some gems. So some of the gems are green, some of them are red, some of them are that orange color. I like the idea of these gems being green. So I'm going to do at least 2 of them green, including the center bit from the on the belt there. Right. Hey, what's up, Blade Wolf? Welcome to the feed. Welcome to Upside Down Starfire. But she looks okay. She's not totally out of line. She's looking okay. Working on. All right. And let's give it the like this orange as a actually let's go red. Let's give her green and red gems here. How are things? Things are good. Things are okay. Super busy time at work, but also dealing with summer hours, so have a lot of staff that's missing right now. So work has been really busy. The gaming has been pretty good. This past Thursday, we decided to kind of pick up at another spot. So we played at another store, and the staff seemed to really want to engage with us. So we want to do stuff at that store. So tomorrow, I kind of have I like have an unofficial paint day set up with them. And what this is going to comprise is me teaching one of their staff how to paint, like some basics of painting, so that she can see kind of give her an idea like what my painting events are like, what I do. And then also for her own like benefit, she gets to learn how to paint. So that's cool. And I taught her Guild Ball so far this week, and I want to teach her Batman. I don't think there's that much interest for her to play Batman, but I want to teach her if she's interested in learning it, because it's a super fun game. And if we're gonna start to play Batman at that shop on the regular, then it would be good for her to know. And then I see it as a kind of a Hail Mary, though, to expect them to carry anything like that. I don't think they'll carry Batman because it's too difficult to work with the suppliers when even the veteran LGS store that has dealt with all kinds of stuff like that in the past has issues stocking Batman. So if for example, like if Comic Quest, who's dealt with every distributor and supplier, if they're having a hard time getting it, then that's a bad sign. That basically means, okay, well, that means everybody else. She may like the Birds of Prey crew. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I showed her. I actually did show her some Birds of Prey. But she doesn't really follow Batman, so it's a very different thing. The only thing that's interesting is to her is she wants to learn more gaming stuff and just kind of become more knowledgeable overall about gaming and miniature gaming and what kind of stuff is out there, how to approach, miniature games. This is very different than, say, Comic Quest, where the people's interest at Comic Quest is stems more from the fact that they're hardcore comic book fans. So hardcore comic book fans are looking at the Batman miniatures game going, "Oh, I want that mini, I want that mini," but not necessarily wanting to play it, So that's kind of where. So I'm right now just going to put in some brown squares. So this is kind of how I do flagstone. I do like flagstone and all the um, and all the other like wood. I'm sorry, cobblestone and brick and all that. I usually go with these colors: gray, a brown, and a red. And then you would go through and kind of wash this whole model. All right. So we'll give that a second to dry, and then we're going to make a wash. And we're going to make an ink wash. We're going to make probably a couple of ink washes. I do want to use, where's the skin wash? I want to use the Vallejo skin wash specifically because it's a weird color. It's like an orange color that actually would work better with a skin tone like Starfire. And I thought about it ever since I discovered there was a Starfire miniature, and I just absolutely hated the Vallejo skin wash ink color. It's just an awful color. It's not good for washing, Caucasian skin. I sworn it was over there. Let's see. New. Find stuff in here. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's a terrible color if you're actually trying to use it for regular skin tones. I cannot seem to find anything in this thing anywhere. Here we go. So here it is, skin wash. Trying to paint this Reaper model, but it is hard to paint. So I'm going to go 2 drops of this, and then we're going to use this to glaze all of Starfire's skin. But you'll see what I'm talking about once this starts to go down. It's a very interesting color. But it's going to it'll give Starfire her skin that really kind of nice, glowing look to it that it typically has. And it's going to tone this kind of heavy ochre into more the color that Starfire skin is. You can see, okay, so it's not that big a difference there. But you'll see it once it starts to get into the crevices and all that. So again, this is Vallejo. This is Vallejo Inks Skin Wash. Was this? I think, yeah. And it's almost like a carrot juice color, and it's perfect for Starfire because I've tried this ink, using this ink on like Caucasian skin, and it's horrible. Don't ever do that. But you can see here, it does a fairly admirable job. You just don't want excess. You don't want too much of it. And then if it's still too dark, then you come back and highlight with that original heavy ochre color. This is already looking pretty fantastic by my standards. So I'm pretty happy with that. So once this is done, I'll move over to Batgirl. We'll paint Batgirl. And then finally we'll paint, actually I should probably paint Ravager first. Because Ravager has, when Ravager gets washed, it's going to be very similar to Batgirl. Batgirl doesn't need a whole lot except for very minor highlights and a wash. Hey, what's up, Tori? Welcome to the feed. The other really cool thing about this this wash is that it's going to leave a little bit of sheen on her skin, and that's what I want for Firestar. Starfire. I want her skin to retain that kind of color, that kind of glowing color to it. Okay. And then I also want to do some violet ink. What do I do with it? So as of right now, I think I have my first July painting challenge video uploading, which is cool. I jumped it was such a last second decision to jump into the July painting challenge that I haven't even really caught up and read the questions or anything like that. I think it's because I'm pretty casual about my participation in that. It's just I don't have like set projects or anything that I go in with. It's just whatever I see for that month, that's what I'm painting. Tell you what I don't see right now is violet ink. Batman minis. Yeah, at least I was happy. At least it wasn't like the questions are more generic like they were last year too. Before it used to be like, if you were a space marine, like all the questions were really like GW based, and I'm like, I know it's kind of weird because I know that most of the contestants um, are participating with GW projects. Wasn't so. Wow, this is. She's actually a little bit too dark, if anything, but we can always highlight her out of that. Right now, I'm just really liking the tone of the sheen on the skin. That's what I expect for Starfire. Yeah, mix of minis. That's cool. All right. Yeah, I watched like one or two of your boot camp videos, so I know you're working on like essentially 4 minis. I think there's an RK mini in there, a couple of GW minis, and a Kingdom Death mini, if I recall correctly. So that's cool. All right, so we're gonna make a kind of a make a umber style wash, and I know this Starfire looks kind of bad right now. The ink glaze takes a while to dry, and it's super high sheen while it's wet. It dulls down, so I'm not terribly worried about it because quite a bit with other stuff. So now all I got to do is run this into the hair to give the hair some definition. I know it looks awful right now, but I trust in the process. I say that a lot on this feed, I've noticed, right? We'll be in the middle of painting something, and depending on how I decide to approach it, it's going to look ugly for a minute, and then it almost always bounces back to the look I was going for. Maybe I'm just super lucky that way. 2D GW, 1 KD, and 1 RK mini. Yep, cool. Well, good luck getting it finished. Seems like, I think you're planning on trying to do one a week, which is awesome. Okay. And then all I do is this. Okay. And then so I probably will have to come back at some point and do a quick little highlight on her skin after it dries, because I want to. Right now, her skin is the right sheen. It's missing a little bit of that highlighting to it. There's not enough effect on it, is what I'm saying. And I want to get through these commission minis because I want to work on my own stuff. I gotta cook through commission stuff pretty fast these days, because there's a lot of it coming in, and I want to be able to keep up with my own projects because I want to keep playing. The guys that are hiring me locally are guys that I play with, so I need to get their minis done so they can play, but I need to get my minis done too so that I can continue to game with them. Because if I don't game with them, then it becomes very difficult to motivate me to paint. That's my whole thing. Like when I hit slumps, it's not in one thing only. These are usually related, and either it being the painting slump, uh, or the tabletop gaming slump, or even like video game. Like I could have a video game slump, or a miniature painting slump because of a video game, right? So they're all, at least in one weird way, they're all kind of interconnected. Okay. All right, so we'll give that a minute to dry, or more minutes to dry. We're going to move over here to, we're going to start working on some Batgirl. Okay. So Batgirl is actually coming along fairly well. I want to get a good base coat down on her hair, because I got to get her to red hair. And then the client wanted like some weird black stripes down the side, like the more modern version of her. And it's not going to work here. It's not going to work the way this armor is sculpted. So I think I'm just going to skip that, if I'm being honest with you. I'll just skip it and worry about that, when I come to give him his mini back. And, usually if I skip something, I try to pick stuff that I think they would be willing to be flexible on. A lot of times I'll just shoot them a message, hey, I'm doing this. Is that okay? Can I proceed? And it's usually okay. Usually is the key word there. right, so I'm gonna give Batgirl a little loving on her belt. And then, like I said, there's not a whole lot to be done on Batgirl. A couple of inks. It's not that big a deal. I mean, she is only a 59-point free agent, so. Okay. Let's start painting some of the flagstone in so that when she is done, the painting in like big brick or flagstone or stamped bases like this can sometimes take the longest in terms of dry time. And especially if you're going to run a wash over a paint that's still very wet, um, you could end up with some like hydrophobic style reactions between the paint and the thinner, um, or could end badly. Could end in conflict, that kind of thing. Right. So, should I rant? Is the question. Because there's stuff for me to rant about. I just don't know if I should do it. Like, I don't know if, uh, you guys that are patiently listening in or watching or whatever, like, would it drive you crazy to hear yet another one of my rants? Because I totally have one loaded up. And I actually ranted at my wife a little earlier. I gave her a little bit of this rant, the rant that I'm threatening to give you guys right now. But so there's a guy at my work that I think I mentioned this on the show before. That he walked into my office one day because he'll come in and ask my opinion on stuff, right? And I don't really know what started this, but he started asking my opinion on movies and popular culture and all this kind of stuff. And he liked to just come into my office. Always like people like knock on my office door, right? And I usually think like, man, this is going to be another headache. Here comes another person with another problem that I have to solve, right? Like that's me at my work, right? That's my that's kind of my MO at work. It's like, please don't bother me. I got a lot of stuff to do. I'm not all as anybody who watches this. I'm not all sunshine at work. I know, big shock, right? But anyways, this guy comes in. He would come in and ask my opinion on stuff, and I used to just tell him like, look, I don't like this, I don't like that, um, and give him my reasoning why. And for whatever reason, he liked it. Like he liked my reasoning for stuff, and I don't know. But he finally came in one day. This was a couple of weeks ago. He finally came in and just said, "You're ruining my life. I can't. You've ruined my life. I can't watch anything anymore without being hypercritical of it, and you know, generally not having a good time. And I was like, I could kind of feel bad about that, but I don't really. Because he asked my opinion. He asked my opinion on stuff, and I tend to not have popular opinions on popular culture. That's just me. Uh, so, anyways, so so he kind of ruined his life, and so now he comes in and he asks me stuff like, did you see the Jumanji trailer? Wasn't that like the biggest piece of garbage trailer you've ever seen, and all this other kind of stuff? And I'm like, yeah, it is pretty bad, and we get into why we did not like the Jumanji trailer. A lot of people, by the way, did not like the Jumanji trailer. You can all you must do is pull up the Jumanji trailer, the 2017 trailer here on YouTube, and you'll see that it has a fairly high dislike ratio, 1-to-1 ratio. The last time I looked at it, between likes and dislikes, and people have a legitimate gripe against Jumanji, the new Jumanji, because it has very little. One of the biggest gripes is it has very little to do, almost nothing to do, with the original Jumanji movie, and you'll see that. You'll see that as kind of a common theme today, is like the Hollywood formula for making a movie. Take a property that has a recognizable name or people have some nostalgia over, add high-grossing actors. Right now, The Rock, Kevin Hart, these are essentially proven box office entities. It's a safe bet to put them in a movie because they've been proven to be profitable. And then just take the franchise and then try to remind the audience of as many things as possible. That's how like Stranger Things worked. I think Stranger Things was kind of a troll, because like that's all Stranger Things was to me, was like, it's an okay story, but what it really seems to be trying to do is remind you of all that other stuff that you really liked, and that's why I was like, me, Stranger Things was okay. It didn't deserve the hype that it got. It was just okay, because it was just a case of the member berries, as far as I'm concerned. But yeah. So anyways, so we talk about the Jumanji trailer, but that's not really what I'm going to talk about tonight. What I'm going to talk about tonight is we started talking about the Death Note trailer, right? Death Note came out with a new trailer earlier this week, and he made me watch it live. Like he pulled it up on his phone and sat there in my office and played it for me. 2-minute trailer, and just kind of sat there and watched. He wanted to watch my facial expressions, my reactions to stuff, and he's laughing because I apparently the whole time I just had this really annoyed look on my face, like really just kind of put out look, like why are we doing this? Why is this a thing? So yeah, that was the Death Note trailer, and it really, we were afraid. There were certain things in the first trailer that we were worried about, and in the second trailer, it just made our fears even more, feel even more justified in what they were doing, and how they were going to approach this really complex, difficult story from an anime, and then convert it to, a live action, kind of thriller for a Western audience. That's what they were trying to do, and I get that that's what they were trying to do, but their execution was absolutely abysmal. I mean, this is easily one of the worst adaptations of anything I've seen. My opinion, they have all but completely missed the point of the original series and the major themes of the original series, and decided instead to try to moronify the plot for a broader audience, right? They're trying to hit that, let's hit the lowest common denominator, the stupidest person in the room, and they won't understand the whole thing about Death Note, right? But here's the problem with that thinking. Like, yeah, you want to get the I get it. You want to appeal to the lowest common denominator because that's a much higher demographic, right? That's where all these other movies work, like Jumanji, like stupid summer blockbuster movies that are, all but lacking um, in depth and content, right? They're basically, sorry, I'm trying to clean up here. You saw what that did. That was weird. That was just way too light. But that's how summer blockbusters movies work. Is they want to appeal to the lowest common denominator, and they want to get butts in seats and that kind of thing. And if you're too smart, if you present a tale that's too complex, that requires too much independent thinking on behalf of the audience, you're not going to have much of an audience, right? That's true, right? And I'm always torn when, Hollywood will take a beloved property and do that to it, because it's like, well, I don't really, but what choice do they have? We want the broader audience to be able to appreciate this, but it does feel like we're betraying a little bit. We're not treating the story respectfully. Here's the issue with that, though, and Death Note specifically. Death Note is a really, really smart thriller. It's really smart, right? It's smarter than most people, even the people that like it, have a hard time following it, because that's how smart Death Note is. And it thrives off of that. So if you're going to try to dumb down Death Note, you are essentially clipping its balls off. Like you are, the whole thing has been disarmed. The entire appeal with Death Note is this idea that it's super, super smart. So if you don't make it super, super smart, then it doesn't have its main avenue of appeal. And it also doesn't have, to be more technical here, it's missing some of the primary moral issues and moral debates that you might see. So, and my main issue from the trailers is that the character, the Light Yagami character, is completely wrong. And so is L in the trailers. L looks like this weird, like, ninja badass guy. He looks almost like the Unabomber, or somebody was saying, I forget. It was super funny. What somebody made a really funny comparison to something. I just don't remember what it was. Right, and so you have all that, but it's not true to the original work. The whole thing that makes Light Yagami so interesting was that he did start off, at least, as this super well-meaning, talented, good-looking, bright kid. He was a hyper overachieving kid. You're supposed to like Light Yagami. You're supposed to. People like Light Yagami. People are, in the story, People respect him, people like him. He's not this outcast. While L in the story is definitely an outcast. He's, you know, you could argue that he's a bit on the spectrum, that he's very eccentric. At the very least, he's extremely eccentric. So, without trying to diagnose him for anything, and I'm definitely not qualified to do that, but I get the impression that, okay, so if you told me that L was, was on the spectrum, or he had Asperger's or something like that, I would totally believe you because of the way he acts in the series. You're not supposed to understand him. He's not supposed to be cool. He's supposed to be um, weird, and that's what the Netflix people fail to see, is that the whole thing with Death Note is it's very, the appeal to the character is very Walter White. Okay, it's very similar to, okay, he's the bad guy, but you're still going to root for him. You don't want him to get caught. You don't want this bad thing to happen to him. Not yet, anyways. You want to see this thing all the way through, and you want to see eventually what happens to him. And that's what made the whole thing so awesome in the first place, is you got to see stuff like that. And then in the case of L, like I said, what was so cool about L was that he's this really, really strange character. And, he does really strange things. And then at the end of it, like, you have this tremendous amount of respect for L. And he's just this kind of strange, kind of unassuming hero. Instead, what we got was, L is like this super badass guy, and he can talk trash right in front of Light Yagami, and there's all this trash talking that happens, and I don't know. It didn't work for me. It did not work for me. That whole, it seems like it misses the central point of the story, which is, that even the brightest, most talented, most wonderful people, given the power, are going to end up becoming villains. They're going to end up being corrupted by that. And they're going to be, and their ego is going to basically lead to this authoritarian stance of, oh, well, I can decide who's right and who's wrong. I get to be the ultimate judge of who gets to live, who gets to die. And that's what made it so interesting, was to take a character like that is, you take a character like that was at least one point, hey, what's up, Cameron? Who was at least one point super likable, super relatable, golden child type thing, and turn him into, what Light becomes at the end. And then with L, like I was saying, the whole appeal behind the L character was that he's just a super weird guy. He starts off as being this really kind of enigmatic thing, but oh, hey, what's up, Hoser? You can see I'm working on your minis, so. But yeah, that was, and it's like they lost it. Oh, that's wrong. See, that's wrong. I'm going to need to mix red and yellow inks, actually, not sepia. Sepia is too. Sepia is not correct. Instead, it's this, Netflix has turned it into this, outcast nerd guy and his girlfriend decide they're going to do some good in the world. And then, super bad boy L is going to be the one to take him down. He's one bad mother effer. That's where they just missed it entirely. turning Nightwing into Zartan. Rad. Welcome back, Blade Wolf. So like trying to explain this to my wife and people who aren't fans of Death Note. I would explain to them by taking something that they consider sacred, right? You got to start. That's the thing. People go, oh, when you start to complain about something, some adaptation of something that you really enjoy, people go, oh, you're just being a hyper fanboy and you need to stop being such a hateful nerd or whatever, right? But when it happens to them and they feel the sting of, misinterpretation or disrespect of something that you really enjoy, then that's different, right? So what you can do for people that don't understand how awesome it is you go, okay, well, let's pretend. And like I said, I did this with my wife and she totally got it. I was like, okay, so we're gonna redo Princess Bride, and this time Wesley is this like hyper rich, super successful, pretty boy guy, and Humperdinck is this ugly troll that nobody likes. And at the end, Wesley gets to kill Humperdinck. There's a cool rock and roll theme going all the way through the movie. Inigo Montoya is, he's hell-bent on not revenge. He's just there for horses or something. You know what I mean? You have to like take something that they consider, in order to get people to understand, is you have to take something that matters to them and shit all over it, and then just basically destroy the entire central theme of that, just so they see this is the mistreatment of something that you liked, right? When they miss the mark like that with Death Note, like I had my own like idea of what I would do with Death Note, and I wanted to make it super relevant, right? So I'll just tell you guys, I don't care. I'm going to tell you guys how I would do Death Note if I did it. If I was Netflix and I was working on that, what I would do. So I would very much set it in today's backdrop, right? Right? Trump is elected president, political turmoil. Yeah, I'd freaking go there. I don't care. It's important, right? And, Trump is elected president. People are worried about their civil liberties and their rights. Nobody knows where the world is headed next. You enter this kid who was always good in school, was always sympathetic for his fellow students, and he was, he's comes from a wealthy family with high moral standards. They're always doing well, doing for their community and whatever. And, he's concerned about the state of the world. He's concerned about the environment, right? He's concerned about equal rights for all people. He's concerned about all this stuff. If it sounds like I'm talking about a social justice warrior, you bet your ass that's what I'm talking about, right? So anyways, right. Name just because, right? So that's the thing. That's where I would get the audience, because it's like this kid feels so powerless with the status quo and the division of society, that he feels like, okay, well, I've suddenly given this power. Now I can do things like that. I can save the world from Trump. I can save the world from these bigots. And he basically would be like an Antifa type guy, marching down the streets for the cause, for what's right. He's going to do it. He's the guy. And just get the audience completely sold that this guy knows what he's doing, that we love this guy and he's great. And then just take you down the road of where this all leads. Take him down, take him and the audience down the road of the extreme end of identity politics, the extreme end of political correctness, the the shutting down of free thought, of challenging status quo, of challenging the media and what you're told. Just take him down this hyper authoritarian road, because that's what Death Note did in its own way in its time. Was it Yagami had this idea for a utopia, and he felt that only he had the ability and the wherewithal to take humanity there using the Death Note. Does that sound familiar? Does it sound fucking relevant? It sure does. It should. That's how people feel today. That's how everybody feels. Everybody with anything to say, myself included. Fuck you. I mean, like, I don't care. like I'll throw my own. I don't care. My own name in there. Like, what would I do with the Death Note? That's the whole beauty of Death Note. Instead, if you're gonna make it about, oh, he was a nerd and he got picked on, and him and his outcast girlfriend are gonna go super emo all over this shit. It's not relevant. It's tame and it's boring and it doesn't engage and it's sad and it's for dumb people. I'm just gonna say it. Like, it's for stupid people. If you can't get that message of the original Death Note, which was so brilliant, right? The road to hell, paved with the best intentions. That's Death Note in a single phrase. That's what that's all about. That's where I would have taken it. Very, and Light Yagami is kind of a, when it comes down to it, he is kind of like a Walter White type character. Hero. He is and you're supposed to like him and you're supposed to root for him, but realize that ultimately this guy is in the wrong, and you got to see where it takes you. Or even cooler, with my idea, is you don't actually, there are going to be people that don't see him in the wrong, even when he does just start throwing names down of people that disagree with him, of people that maybe shouldn't be dying. But there's going to be people that are, there's going to be people that are going to be in the, by any means necessary camp. And they're going to walk away from Death Note going, no, he was the good guy. And you want to know something? That's good. That's okay. That's what made Watchmen good, right? Was that you can have moral debates like that. Instead, what we're getting, what it looks like we're getting from Netflix, tired, outcast, emo kid with a chip on his shoulder type thing, and the weird ninja cool guy who takes him down. It's really kind of sad. And I'm pretty upset about it, because I'm just getting tired of having to deal with adaptations that, in my opinion, don't understand what they're adapting. They simply want to cash in on a successful franchise and go down a safe road, hoping to get more people just to go watch their thing. They're not trying to, when they make things like, when they make stuff like this, when they remake Death Note and they try to modernize it, they're not trying to get new people into Death Note. They don't care if you read the manga or watch the anime afterwards. They don't give a shit about that. They just want you to watch their thing. They want you to recall how much your friends hemmed and hawed about how cool Death Note was, and then you going, well, I don't really like anime, so I'm just going to watch this live action series. They don't care if you like it or not. All they care is that you spent the time and you watched a little bit of it, and then you went back to your friends and you're like, you know what, man, Death Note wasn't that good. I watched the Netflix series and it's kind of dumb. It's kind of a stupid classic revenge tale. And you go, no, dude, they didn't respect the original work. They didn't present the core ideas that the original work presents. And, what you're watching is a sad Death Note. And at that point, who cares, right? They go by and they give Death Note a rating of, 2 out of 5 stars. So what? They got their views. They got their ratings. They don't give a shit. They don't care. They could make a movie called Ghostbusters, which is a completely awful reboot. They could do something like that and not care because they got people in seats to begin with. Well, in that case, I don't know. I don't know how much of their money they made back, but you get what I'm saying. It's not about sustaining a franchise. It's about getting you to sit down long enough for them to cash in. Right? Anyways, Watchmen. Yeah. See, I love Watchmen. And I loved it specifically because it poses a moral dilemma. It poses a moral dilemma, and people feel strongly about it, and they discuss it, and they're like, "No, is it right? No, it's not. Well, he's kind of right, you know." And that's what's cool about this kind of stuff. And instead, this is what we're getting. So that's why I'm bitching about Death Note before Death Note is out, because it does look like they're just going to miss the point of it entirely, just based on the characterization of the two main characters. Is that presumptive? Sure, in a sense, but I mean, it, when the embodiment of the two characters is tantamount to success of the storytelling, then yeah, you can give up at that point. They're building the castle on sand. If is how I'm looking at this. So that's my rant. I was deeply disappointed in both of the Death Note trailers. Am I going to watch it? Yeah, I am going to watch it. And the guy at work wants me to watch it, and he wants to record my rants over it. He wants to, yeah, he wants to be able to, get my thoughts, which I've already done here. But I don't know. I've always wanted to do a podcast. I won't lie to you. I've always wanted to do a podcast, but I want to do it in order for me to do a podcast. I really do need that co-host draw words out of me, right? Who can really get me to talk and who I can get to talk and have that good banter. Like, that's important. And I just don't have that. And I have people in my life that can do that with me, but we don't have the kinds of schedules or anything, or even, even the same interests to do it anymore. Like right now, I'll tell you, like, I would consider doing one with Jake. Like me and Jake, I could see that. Like me and Jake, we could probably, it's super wet, it'll dry. Me and Jake, we could probably do that kind of podcast, and it would probably be pretty cool. The problems that we would have is, Jake's in grad school and he works a full-time job. I work a full-time job. I have 2 kids. We're both playing. Jake is playing D&D. I'm playing miniature games. So in other words, you have a scheduling problem, and you have, and you just have like an overlap problem. Like there's not enough. We don't share enough in common these days to do a podcast, unless we were going to do a podcast where we're just talking random shit. Like I could see us doing a podcast where each one of us brings up a different topic, and the other person may not be very well informed on it. But, the nature of he and I is we would still talk our mess about it anyway, whether or not, we were well versed in that particular topic. Not a bragging, right? It's actually kind of sad, but we would do that if you get us talking about stuff. That would be a pretty fun podcast to record too. But again, the logistics do not work. on trying to get that podcast together. So right now I'm working on the Ravager Mini, who I'm not doing that like yellow and blue, that standard yellow and blue that you see her in. This is like an alternate Ravager costume, which is going to be mostly black, actually. But the way, due to the way red works, to use the dry brush and, an airbrush, block out the red color, and then basically paint all the black around it. I'm kind of, should I play this Batman game? Well, it depends. How much do you like Batman? One of the main requisites of the game. The game is very quirky. It's a first edition game, essentially. I know it has 2 editions, and they did just recently update this 2nd edition. But let's be real here. It still behaves like a first edition game. But that's not a bad thing. It behaves, in my opinion, it behaves like a Malifaux or a Malifaux 1.5, where it's convoluted. Yeah, there's lots of rules. Yeah, it's still quirky, and some of the mechanics are still a little clumsy, and you could probably do things a little faster. But what you gain is, again, exactly like Malifaux 1.5. What you gain is this idea that you get this ultimate immersive experience out of it. What am I looking at here? I'm trying to figure out how this costume works. It looks like, okay, so it looks like she has like these side vents, and it looks like those are going to stay red, and these top parts are going to be black. So I'm going to paint it like this. A lot of quirks, kind of expensive. Batman's cool. I get most of my info and stuff from the animated movies. Yeah, then if you watch the animated movies or play the video games, like I didn't read Batman comics growing up. I started playing this game because I wanted to play something with really, really cool superhero minis in it. And I saw the Court of Owls, and I was like, wait, they're called the Court of Owls, and I love owls. So I was in from that aspect as well. And as a consequence of that, I started to look into the fluff behind Court of Owls. And that really made me fall more, like get way more into the game. And then, did I just screw up? I might have. It's fine. I'm going to fix that. Read enough comics. Yeah, I wouldn't. It's more about like, you want to look at it and go, okay, well, because some of the guys that we got into it don't really read the comics, but they started to learn about their crews and how they work. For example, we got one of our friends into a Riddler crew, and he never read the comic books or anything, but just on how much fun he had and how he wanted to learn more about how the Riddler crew worked from a fluff standpoint. He got into the stories. When I read the Court of Owls story, like that really drew me more into the Batman game and the universe. It was like, wow, Court of Owls, that's awesome. But yeah, in terms of develop a miniatures game that gives you this really super fun narrative experience, this is the game. Like that's where this game and our old favorite Malifaux 1.5, that's where they what they have in common is that they lead to some really the games themselves lead to some really cool kind of narrative experiences. And then once you start, you like if you have characters that you really like, then you find out. For example, like Strix can be used in Court of Owls, but you can also take her in Birds of Prey, and you can also take her in Secret Six. And you're like, oh, Secret Six is cool. And in my case, I started reading about Catman. I really got into Catman and started to read Secret Six fluff. And then before you know it, you're like really into this game. At least that's how it's worked for me. The game itself, super fun. Um, has its quirks, but the terrain and the models and all that stuff, really nice. Oops. But yeah, I I have really fallen for this game and way more than I ever expected to. These are definitely like Deadpool type colors. Also reminds me of Harley Quinn. Oops, almost. Oh, I did paint over the venting. Oh well. I guess I'm just gonna paint all the pants, the bottom black then, like that. It's fine. I recommend it, man. Like if I'm ever out in your area or whatever, or if you're ever out down here, I can we can take you through a game. Starting to like this Ravager color scheme. Kind of cool. I wonder. I guess the arms should be black too. Has a couple of spaces where she's got that red detailing showing. And then her boots and her belt and that stuff is red. Give her a black collar. Because the majority of her is uh is black. Let's see. I need to come out for paint day. I don't remember how far CQ is. I'm trying to push myself as a commission painter. Well, right now, I have a somewhat steady stream of Batman commissions coming through because we're all starting to play Batman. Building the models, the old night models, is a nightmare. I bitch about it all the time. Like that Batgirl paint job is the easiest thing. It's building that stupid model that will just drive you up the wall. Yeah, looking pretty cool. So let's leave. So I'm going to leave like the tops of these bell bottoms red, and then I'll do the shoe proper black. Give that a second to dry. And I'll paint the sword. The hilts of the sword. Yeah, I do hope you come out for paint day. It'd be super fun. I love paint day. Like I've come to the conclusion that, if I ever do get the kind of bandwidth like public events like I used to back in the old days, that I would do mostly paint days. Like I don't running game demos or it's okay, but I found out for me personally what I really like to do is I really like to do the paint days. And so just waiting for Starfire and Batgirl to dry. And this one will be done somewhat soon too. CQ is in Lake Forest. Yeah, paint day is awesome. Except I am doing paint day like during the Saturday Comic-Con. I don't know. I don't think the people who normally come to paint day are Comic-Con attendees anyway, so I don't think it's that big a deal. Like a couple people whined in the store, but I'm like, whatever. You never go to paint day. Whatever, poser. Like you don't pretend to be upset about this. You don't go. You don't go to paint day. This so just I don't know. See how judgmental I am? Damn, rough, dude. So she has white hair. Someone texting. I don't know what's going on down there. Dang, dude, harsh. I know. Well, I'm just saying, like, it just seems like lip service. And I know, like, we get, like, I have those, I have like friendships or whatever that I feel bad because I just do, I pay lip service to. For example, there's this really nice lady that lives like up north, like towards the Ukaipa area, who I think is super sweet, and I like her a lot. And she does like a game day like way up there, and the reality is I can never get up there, right? I got two kids and a wife that they like to do stuff on the weekends, and so my weekend time is extremely limited. And as much as I like this person, um, I'm sadly not willing to invest the time to drive out there and what's required as opposed to other things I could be doing with that time. That's just the reality. If it sounds harsh, so what? I mean, that's what value judgments that way, whether we want to consciously or not. And so, things are going to be important to you and less important to me. They're going to be things that are important to me and less important to you. That's just life, man. That's just kind of how it works. And so when she throws these like game days and I'm like, oh, I really want to go, but I can never go. Well, that's only half true. Like there's a part of me that wants to go, but I make a value judgment that says, well, no, today you need to take your kid to Knott's Berry Farm. You're not going to go to that game day thing, or you're not going to, engage your wife over that, because you need to ask your wife to whether or not you can do your own paint day or your own game day, right? You see what I'm saying? So if she were to come back and just call bullshit on me, like if I go, oh, I really wanted to go, I'm totally gonna go next time, she can go bullshit. No, you're not. You're going to go, like I'm going to go when something happens to tip the scales to make that a more valuable encounter for me, right? Like if she were to say, "Hey, I'm going to pay you $700 to paint 6 miniatures for me," you bet your ass I'm in the car driving down to that paint day, right? It's suddenly important to me. That's just how life works. you know, that's there's no what I'm saying shouldn't be news to anybody. That's just how it works. And so we say things like, I want to go to your event. I want to go, or I want to spend more time with you. I want to go do things with you. And that's cool and all. Let's make no illusions about if it's not happening regularly, then there's a value judgment being made, and something would have to change that value judgment in order to change the outcome. Damn, I'm just rough, right? I just say it. I don't care. Just rough. And Batgirl's almost ready for the next layer of ink glaze. I don't know. What do you think? I mean, that's why flaking occurs. Flaking occurs, and skipping people's events and that kind of thing occurs because you make a value judgment. Not always. I mean, yeah, there's that, there might be time you got into a car accident on the way over there, or, something really tragic happened in your family. There's stuff like that. I'm not saying that that doesn't happen. I'm saying most of the time, barring any sort of, freak accident or anything like that, the reason why these things don't occur is because somebody makes a value judgment, and then that person says, I need to do this because this is more important to me right now than doing that. That's all it is. And you can't take it personally, right? You can't be super mad, um not doing, like, oh, you need to go to my paint day because it's important to me. That's kind of a selfish stance, right? You um Instead, you just need to be, I guess, grateful for when they do it. All right, let's do a little bit of a dry brush here, just like a super light dry brush. Way too much paint on this brush still. Wow. Am I making sense? I don't know. Maybe. But yeah, literally, that's kind of how I take it. It doesn't, it's not a bad thing. It's just a thing. There are people that say they're going to go to things and they don't regularly go. There are other people who may not tell you that they're going, but they always end up going. And that's kind of cool too. So it works both ways. You can have people that, their value judgment was, I'm going to go. It's just not valuable enough for me to tell somebody that I'm going. So because it's black, I'm going to give a, we're going to play around with the lighting just a little bit, not too much. Okay, so now it looks like kind of a mess. Wow. Sorry about the Reaper miniature. That sounds terrible. Okay. Did I ever make a pure black ink glaze? I think I did. Here it is. So this is going to come down. And this will just essentially shade the entire model. And it'll soften up all that dry brushing I just did. And give some depth to the black, to the red, which is what we want. Oops. Is a model I'm using for Blood and Plunder as a captain. Oh, there's some really cool Reaper models in the shop in CQ that I want to paint. I mean, I don't have any specific plans on what I'd use them for. I just want to paint them. I just think they look awesome. And I think one of them is a pirate mini. So these are fairly simple paint jobs, but they're looking pretty cool. There's good depth to them. This one's probably going to require a second black, second treatment of black ink glaze, which I can apply tomorrow morning when I do the rest of the ink glazes. But yeah, pretty stoked on that. That's cool. July 2 is my day 1 for JPC. Okay, cool. So, for the most part, the commission figs are done. Jose, your stuff is done. A couple minor things to do, but overall, you know, this is them. They're going to look much better when they dry. They just look a little wet right now. And then I can start to work on the classic Deadshot and the Parademon. Okay. So let that dry. Yeah, the Starfire is the one that looks cool, I think. The Batgirl is looking okay. I think she needs, I don't know. I think she needs something. I think I'm going to put on her helmet here, or this black glaze, just to catch some more detail. Let's do it here on her armor as well. Well, yeah, they're looking pretty good. Okay. There are only 5 of them, supposed to be 6. I know. Actually, the Secret 6 build that I'm working on is only 4, so it's even worse. Okay, let me show you guys, since we're here, And we're not going to be on that much longer because I'm going to go to sleep sometime soon here. Let me show you what this whole this like speed technique is that I do. Not everybody can do it because it does require an airbrush, and then it does require inks. You need an airbrush, inks, glazes, and that kind of stuff. Okay, so here's the parademon, and I haven't done anything to him except hit him with an airbrush. And I did, I'm doing a standard like light brown to sand to white color, and you just zenithal, right? You prime it and then you zenithal. You'll hear this shit from me all day long, like I'm from the cult of zenithal, which I think I am. I think I'm the leader of that cult. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your dry brush and you're gonna put a really, really light layer of white down just to catch edges, right? So then you do that, you put that on your brush and then wipe the overwhelming majority of it off, right? What I tell people when I'm trying to teach them dry brushing is treat it like you actually are trying to get all the paint off. Just don't use water. And then obviously you would test your palm to make sure that you could still see the wrinkles in your palm, right? And then once that's done, now I'm going to take that and lightly go over the model, concentrating on where the light is going to hit and where the edges are the hardest, right? So kind of against the grain in some areas. Don't do too much, even though this technique does actually do quite a bit towards correcting over dry brushing. Just don't do too much. I say as I do it too much. Okay. You're also kind of, when you're doing this kind of dry brush, concentrate on hard edges. You don't need to do like crazy contours or anything like that. You're just trying to pick up hard edges. That's all. So it should look like that, right? It should look like you're able to get some lighting down. Okay, so far so good, right? Now here's where the actual like skill comes in, if there is such a thing, is we're going to do a couple of ink glazes. I know, big shock, right? So we're going to do a sepia glaze, and then we're going to come back and do the umber glaze. Okay, so lighter to darker. The sepia glaze is more of a tint that we're going to do. And again, when we're applying these, apply them over the entire model. Okay, so here comes the sepia glaze. So it's giving it, you can see it's giving it kind of a red-orange tinge. But you can see that the white dry brush I did is going to help it stand up. It's going to help the detail continue to shine through. And then when you're doing this tint, try to push the glaze out as far as humanly possible. Like, don't go back in the well until you absolutely have to, because you don't need it to pool in the corners, especially on a tint. You just need the tint to come down and basically enrich everything. See how like it's super dark in there? I don't need it to do that. whoa, I need it to stick on the sticky tack is what I need it to do. The yellow sticky tack is giving me a hard time. Stuff like this, super easy paint job if you're using this technique. It's just a matter of, the main concern is you got to make sure you have that you're going to give it enough time to dry. Because if you come in with the second glaze too early, then it'll all just kind of run together, and that's not what you want. You want to be able to build on your tone and then into a shadow, right? So see how that's just leaving orange in the shadow? Orange in the shadow is okay, but that's not the tone we're going for. We're going for a non-metallic look. So we want, where it does dip into shadow, we want it super dark. Umber, sometimes even black, you want it to do. Okay. You can see how I did way too much there. If this were a wash, I might be in trouble because I would try to pick it up and move it. And sometimes the wash will dry too quickly and you end up with puddles. You end up with weird, ugly breaks. The other thing you can do with a glaze is, if you did put way too much on, and let's say, the mid part of this wing here, I want to be a lot lighter, you just brush it off while it's still open, like you're highlighting, right? So I can do that and highlight without having anything on my brush. I'm just pulling excess ink glaze off, right? While I'm out, keep me posted on the next paint day. Paint day, July 22nd. I'll send you an invite when the Facebook event is created. Okay, so there's that. Yeah, wow, it is 11:39, isn't it? I think I'm just gonna let that dry then. I'll work on this tomorrow, and then classic dead shot and that kind of stuff. All right. So yeah, it's getting late. I think we're gonna call it because I gotta get up early. I'll do a little bit more painting early in the morning, but I need to pack all this stuff for paint day. So anyways, let me show you guys. Let's take a final look at the stuff that I finished, which are the 3 commission models. So Jose, if you're around tomorrow, we can meet up at Game Master in the afternoon, and you can pick up your models, and maybe if we have time, maybe we can pick up a game. All right, so let's have a look. All right, so here is Ravager. I think she turned out pretty well. Kind of cool looking model there. What time? Probably, I want to say 2:30 or 3. Or we could even meet earlier than that. I don't know. We'll see. And then here's Starfire. I know she looks kind of weird right now, but she's drying. I think she's the coolest looking one, honestly. She's going to look the best when she's dry. And then Batgirl also looks pretty good. Okay. And I didn't really get to work on Harley. I'm going to work on her some more tomorrow too. Awesome. Well, I'm glad you're happy with them. They're going to dry. I'll seal them up, and I'll see you tomorrow. So that's going to do for this video. I want to thank everybody for watching. Have a good night, guys. I'll keep you guys posted on the next official paint day, but tomorrow is an unofficial paint day. If you want details on that, and I will. All right. Have a good night, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.